Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Debbie Arnott and I'm the Mayor at Warrnambool City Council, and I will be chairing tonight's council meeting. I would like to formally welcome everyone watching this council meeting. This meeting will be live streamed to allow for public viewing and transparency, and if any technical problems interrupt the live stream during this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until the issues are rectified. This scheduled council meeting will be conducted in accordance with council's governance rules, and any interruptions to the meeting or actions not in line with behaviour expectations will be dealt with in accordance with these rules. I'll ask everyone to stand, please, for the prayer and acknowledgement of traditional owners. We will now proceed to the items of the agenda, commencing with the opening prayer and acknowledgement of the traditional owners. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Are there any apologies for this meeting? No, thank you. Councillors, at item 3 on the agenda, we have a recommendation before us to confirm the minutes of the scheduled meeting of Council held on 6 March 2023. Councillors, are there any questions before I seek a motion? No. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Blaine. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4, conflicts of interest. If a councillor has a conflict of interest, they must declare it now and do so again just prior to the item being discussed. A councillor who has declared a conflict of interest must leave the meeting and remain outside the room while the matter is being considered or any vote is taken. Once the matter is resolved, the councillor will return to the meeting. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? No, thank you. Following on from our International Women's Day events, which the theme this year is Embrace Equity, I wish to speak about some of the findings from Respect Victoria. The findings from the 2021 National Community Attitudes Towards Violence Against Women survey have been released. The survey measures understanding of and attitudes towards violence against women and gender inequality. The survey found that as a community, we are becoming more aware of what violence against women and gender inequality look like. Australians are now more likely to reject certain forms of violence. Attitudes towards sexual violence have improved significantly since the 2013 survey, which could be attributed to part in global movements like Me Too and local activism from people like Brittany Higgins, Grace Tame and Chantal Contos. Despite these advances, there are some concerning trends in the data. The ABS, police, court and academic data demonstrates that men are overwhelmingly more likely than women to use violence. In fact, data from the ABS shows that 95% of all victims, regardless of gender, experience violence from a male perpetrator. In fact, most violence against people of all genders is perpetrated by men. This does not mean that all men are violent. However, violence occurs where men hold sexist and violence-supportive attitudes, and where these attitudes go unchallenged. Drawing the link between violence-supportive attitudes and violence against women is important in engaging the community in prevention. This is where we need to find ways to engage the community in the gendered drivers of violence against women in ways that are meaningful to them in the places where they live, work, learn and play. The survey also found that certain forms of violence continue to be unrecognised, including emotional abuse and controlling behaviours, Tech-facilitated abuse, like stalking or persistently messaging somebody, was not understood as harmful by a significant number of participants, and issues of consent were similarly misunderstood. Why does this matter? Given the majority of violence against women is perpetrated by men, prevention work will only be successful if men and boys are meaningfully engaged in it. Rigid stereotypes of what it means to be a man are just as harmful to men and boys as they are to our entire community. Further, male-peer relationships also play a critical role in whether violent attitudes, practices and behaviours are challenged or supported. I just wish to highlight this to show that we still have a lot of work to do to prevent violence against women. Thank you. We'll now move to item 6, the public question time. CEO, are there any questions tonight?
Through you, Mayor, we've got a number of questions from people, so I can...
Yep.
So this question is from Ray Lockheed, and I understand that Ray would prefer me to read his question out. So the question from Ray is in relation to the levelling off of the top of Cannon Hill for the art gallery. Prior to the proposed building of an art gallery, what contingency plans have been put in place should any caves, crevices or faults be found in the underlying sandstone? And as a second follow-up question, have these very likely cost blowouts been included in the stated $40 million building costs? So the response to that question is that geological surveys of Cannon Hill have not been completed. If the business case finds that a new art gallery at Cannon Hill is something that the council wishes to continue with, and it's very important to realise that decision hasn't been made. But if that decision was to go, if the decision of council was to proceed with that, it would be then necessary for council to include and undertake geological surveys, and that would then feed into detailed design and costing works. In response to the second question, preliminary costings in the feasibility study have only been done at a very high level. While the costings have included a sum for contingency costs, they haven't accounted for escalation of construction costs or impact of the geotechnical work. And obviously these factors would need to go into an updated business case and costings again, and council chose to proceed at this site. So the second question, Mayor, is from Brian Guy. And again, I've spoken to this guy and indicated he would prefer me to read out the question. So, has the petition opposing the art gallery on Cannon Hill been formally acknowledged? The response to that is the petition opposing the art gallery on Cannon Hill was received at a council meeting, an open council meeting on the 2nd of October 2022. The resolution of the council at that time was that in accordance with the governance rules, the petition lodged objecting to the proposed relocation of the Warrnambool Art Gallery to Cannon Hill be received. So hopefully that answers the question to that question. The second question from Brian Guy was, why was not a greenfield site considered when looking at options for a new art gallery? Again, the answer to that question is, although several sites were considered, no greenfield sites were included, and the basis of that was galleries are most successful when located within close proximity to other cultural and tourism attractions to maximise visitation. So I'm happy to provide a written response to Mr. Guy as he has requested following this meeting. The fourth question has come in from Pamela Medro from Warrnambool. I'm not sure if Pamela is in the gallery.
Doesn't look like it.
To read the question and provide an answer. The question is, when will more bus shelters be erected? I'm not sure, or I hope they are. The council's aware that there are no bus shelters at the bus stops around
Thank you, Andrew.
I've got
One more.
So Mr. Jeffrey Gregg has also asked to make us to raise a question, and I believe Mr. Gregg was going to ask the question himself first.
With regards to the art gallery, I believe you should have a community feasibility study plan in place before you take anything about what you're doing at the moment, and obviously that's the problem, we don't know what you're doing. So I'm under the understanding that there should be a feasibility plan, engagement plan in place.
You're correct, Mr. Gregg. If council chooses to go ahead, and again there has not been no decision made, we're still in a very preliminary phase. Obviously, a consultation plan, community engagement plan would form part of any proposal going forward. But yeah, we're probably at a stage that's before, given that no decision's been made, we're not at a stage where that would be normal practice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I just wish to make comment about the art gallery saga, and it has turned into quite a saga within the community, which is a real shame, because at this stage, this very, very early stage, it is only an investigation. An investigation, that's it. There has been no decision made. I would strongly urge the public to allow the process to evolve. Please don't buy into innuendo and mistruth. There has been no decision at this stage. Thank you. We will now move on to the agenda. Councillors, we're now moving to the officers' report section of the agenda. I would like to remind you of the speaking times allocated for each item during the meeting as outlined in our governance rules. The mover of a motion may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes to open the debate, and then a further 2 minutes later on to exercise their right of reply and to close the debate. Any other councillor, including the seconder, may speak for or against a motion for no more than 3 minutes. To assist councillors with time limits, you will hear a signal when you have reached the maximum time allowed. I would ask you to respect the time limits, please. Item 7, reports. Item 7.1, Local Government Inspectorate Letter. Agenda page number 5, Directorate Department Executive Strategies. This report provides an update on issues being investigated by the Local Government Inspectorate. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that the motion is as per officer's recommendation be accepted. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. From a governance and transparency perspective, it is proper and correct that this letter from the Local Government Inspectorate be tabled at this meeting following their investigation that they concluded that no unlawful activities and no breach of the Local Government Act had occurred into the reappointment of Vicky King as Director of Community Development. Also, it is considered that the 4 recommendations of the Inspectorate in relation to policy and process are not unreasonable and direct the CEO to inform the Local Government Inspectorate that the letter has been tabled and the recommendations will be implemented. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor. The letter addressed by email directly to the then CEO, Mr Schneider, on the 1st of June 2020 was the recommendation from the Local Government Inspectorate to Mr Schneider was to table the letter at the next open council meeting. This was an administrative task that was obviously never carried out, disappointingly. So thank you to the Diligent Audit and Risk Committee and the current CEO for bringing this to our attention, and I'm pleased it will now be dealt with in accordance with the local government inspectorate recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor. It's clear that various occurrences were made during that period that, although legal, were not necessarily right. It's very important, therefore, that the recommendations of the inspectorate are implemented to make sure that those kind of wrongs do not occur again.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Paspaliaris.
I guess in my mind, the investigation distinguishes between unlawful and unethical, both of which have political implication on certain individuals, but there are some important implications on council to get note of. And whilst the inspector has found things to be lawful, I think it remains a question of ethics. I find it also disappointing that a letter like this is not being acted upon or brought to a council meeting as per instructions, so leaving gaps in policy strengthening and obviously not abiding by process and the protocol outlined.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. Is there any other councillor who wishes to speak on this matter? Councillor Blaine.
I'd just like to express my disappointment that it's taken until it was raised at the Audit and Risk Committee for this letter to finally be presented. I think it's a part of an open and transparent council is the reason why it should have been presented nearly a year ago. I do think it's interesting, some of the dispersions about unethical, when this situation's probably never really arisen before in local government. And look, to be honest, the way the letter's written, it wasn't unlawful. Everyone did the best they could at the time. So I'm happy to see that this is finally in the public domain. I'm sure everyone else can cast their own view on what they actually think it means. Thank you.
Any further councillors wish to speak on this matter? No, thank you. I would just like to say that this investigation was triggered by 4 separate complaints, and they're all relating to the appointment of former Director of Community Development, Vicky King. The investigation concluded that the actions were not unlawful. However, Council was not made aware of this letter, which had been presented to us by our current CEO. And 4 of the recommendations in that relate to policy and process, which will be actioned. The final recommendation was for this letter to be tabled, which is effectively happening now. And it is unfortunate that this has been neglected by the previous CEO and actions not implemented sooner. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before we sorry everyone, I'm a bit tongue-tied. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Anna.
Okay, thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.2, appointment of Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson, agenda page number 7, Directorate Corporate Strategies. The purpose of this report is to recommend the appointment of a new committee chairperson to the Warrnambool City Council Audit and Risk Committee. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that Kevin Ledden be appointed as the chairperson of the Warrnambool City Council Audit and Risk Committee.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, just quickly, because we did mention Kevin last meeting when he got appointed. I reckon he'll be a great chair for the Audit and Risk Committee. Brings a lot of experience. We've had our first meeting, and a few things come out of the woodwork, like the last item. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to say that this is an important subcommittee, the audit and risk, and we need good people on it, and I think Kevin's a good example of that.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris.
I'd just like to add to the other councillors, Kevin seems to be a very good operator and a dynamic individual, and I noted his enthusiasm and eagerness was evident in his first meeting a couple of weeks ago, so I feel confident in appointing him as chairperson.
Thanks, Councillor Paspaliaris. Are there anyone else who wishes to speak to the motion? Thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before closing?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Item 7.3, Contract Extension Meals on Wheels Service. Agenda page number 9, Directed Community Development. This report provides an update on Council's current contractual arrangements with South West Healthcare for the ongoing procurement of meals for the Meals on Wheels service for a period of 15 months up to 30 June 2024. Are there any questions before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what is your motion?
Mayor, I move that the Council endorses the extension of the Meals on Wheels procurement contract, which is due to expire tomorrow, to the 30th of June 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly on the extension, I think this is a really important service that Council, even though it is funded by the state, is funded. I think it's a really important service that we do provide, especially to some of the most vulnerable and some of the ones in their hour of need who actually need a feed. And I actually think it's really positive to see that we're extending the contract. And look, and I hope that Council continues to support with the Commonwealth, with the new funding into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak? No. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak before closing?
Only to mention that I'm pleased that we're continuing to provide the service. As Councillor Blaine has mentioned, it's an incredibly important service that we administer, and it, to my way of thinking, in my field, it needs to continue.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.4, Advisory Committee Reports, agenda page number 10, Directorate City Growth. This report contains the record of one reference group meeting. Councillors, are there any questions before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that the motion that the minutes of the Warrnambool Airport Reference Group meeting held on the 21st of February be received as per the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Anna. Yes, there is a need for council officers to review the airport development plan and to develop an airport strategy with particular reference to the protection and safety of airspace around the airport and catering for larger aircraft as the region grows. Thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak? No, thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing?
No, thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.5, informal meetings of council reports, agenda page number 11, directed executive services. The purpose of this report is to provide council with copies of informal meetings of council, previously known as Assembly of Councillor Records, as previously required under Section 80A2 of the Local Government Act 1989. Councillors, are there any questions before I seek a motion? No, councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that the records of the informal meetings held on the 14th, 21st and 28th of March 2023 be received.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak? Thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak? There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before closing?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 7.6, the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report, agenda page number 12, Directorate Executive Services. This report summarises Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council activities since the last ordinary meeting, which particularly relate to key social, economic and environmental issues of direct relevance to the Warrnambool community. Councillors, are there any questions before I seek a motion? No. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Jelly, thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak? Thank you. There are any councillors who wish to speak to this motion? No. Being no further speakers, Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak before closing? No, thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8, are there any notices of motion? Okay. Item number 9, general business. Only items of a minor or routine nature can be raised in general business. The Chair may reject any item that is not of a minor or routine nature or that meets any of the reasons listed in clause 29.2 of the governance rules. Councillors may speak for a maximum of 2 minutes. Council officers will provide an opportunity to respond or address issues raised. General business is for items that are of a minor or routine nature, and I retain the right to reject items in accordance with clause 29.2 of the governance rules. I remind councillors that you will have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak, and officers can provide answers or response if any issues raised. Councillors, are there any items of general business? No. We'll move on to item 10, urgent business. Chief Executive Officer, have you received notice of any items of urgent business? Thank you. We will now close the meeting. There being no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:15. Thank you, everyone.